Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis at the new Mishnah. The previous Mishnahs has described the Seder Hayoim, beginning with bringing down the Kohen Gadol to the Beis HaTevila, then telling us that they're pares a sadin, a sheet made out of linen, so that he has privacy, and also the Gemara explained dafka out of linen to remind him that although the Kohen Gadol normally performs all of his avodah in the 8 vestments, here when he does the avodah in the Kodesh Kadoshim, that cannot be done with the golden vestments, only with the four linen vestments. The Mishnah continues, Poshat Yorad V'Toval. The Kohen Gadol takes off his weekday clothes, he goes down into the mikvah, and he's toivel. Ola V'Nistaperg. He gets out of the mikvah and he dries himself up. Heviu loy big day zov. They bring him the big day zov because he's about to perform then the outer avodah. Velovash v'kidesh yodov v'raglov. He gets dressed in the 8 vestments and he's mekadesh yodayim v'raglayim. Heviu lo es hatam tomid. They bring him the lamb for the korban tamid shel shachar. Krotzoi umerek acher shchita al yodoi. He severs the majority of the simonim, and then the rest of the shchita is performed by another kohen. Kibel as hadam v'zarko. He's makabel then the dam, and he's zorek the dam. In other words, the kohen gadol must perform all of the avodah on Yom Kippurim. Therefore, he does the shchita, which is the roiv. He allows another kohen to then continue it, so they can take the kli and makabel the dam. Then he's zorek the dam on the mizbeach, performing the korban of the tamid shel shachar. Nichnas lahaktir ketore shel shachar. He enters. Here we're talking about the heichal, where the golden mizbeach is found, and he is maktir the ketares, which he does on a daily basis. Here he does it as well. Uleheiti ves haneiros. Then in the heichal he goes to the menorah and he cleans out and performs the last 2 of the 7 neiros, because the first 5 were performed by other kohanim beforehand. Ulahakri ves harosh ves ha'ivorim. Then he takes the rosh and the ivorim that are on the kevesh, that are placed there by the kohanim, and he then takes those parts, those ivorim, and he puts on the marocha, on the mizbeach, to burn. The Mishnah continues, V'hachavisin ves hayayin. He also does the daily chavisin, the minchas chavisin of the Kohen Gadol, which is an asiras ha'efa, half in the morning, half in the afternoon, as well as the yayin of the nesachim for the korban tamid. The Mishnah continues, once we're talking about being maktir the ketares, the Mishnah tells us the order, ketares shel shachar haisa kreva bein dam le'ivorim. The haktar of the ketares in the morning was performed between the avodas hadam of the korban tamid and the burning of the evorim of that korban. Shel ben arboim ben evorim nisachim. However, the korban, the haktar of the ketares of the afternoon was placed between the burning of the evorim and the bringing of the nisachim, refers to also the soilas of the fine flour, as well as the nisachim, the wine libations. The Mishnah continues and concludes, Im haya kohen gadol zoken o istinis. If the kohen gadol was either elderly or is particularly sensitive, then mechamin loy chamin. Then before Yom Kippur they would heat up water, umatilin litoichat soinen kedei shetafik tzinosan, and then they would pour the water on Yom Kippurim in order to then take off some of the chill from the water, so that you can be toivel. The Gemara points out, Amru Rabban Kamed Rab Papa. The Rabbanon, who were the students of Rab Papa, asked the Rebbe, Hadeloi ke Rabbi Meir. They pointed out that this Mishnah cannot be according to Rabbi Meir. Now this Mishnah states that when the Kohen Gadol begins, he takes off his weekday clothing, and then he's toivil in the mikvah, after which they give him his bidei kahuna, and he wears those clothing, and he's mekadesh yodayim v'raglayim. So the students of Rabbi Papa point out this cannot be like Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir would require that he would also Mikadesh Yodayim V'Raglayim after he's poishet, after he takes off his weekday clothes before putting on his, in this case, the 8 vestments of the Kohen Gadol. Di Rabbi Meir Kivin da Omar Trei Kiddushay Al Levisha Avi Lahu Hachanami La'ave Trei Kiddushay Al Levisha. Since the Rabbi Meir requires 2 Kiddushim of the Levisha of the big day Kodesh, that means 1 before and 1 after. So 2 over here. In this case, when it comes to then taking off his weekday clothes and he's toivel, he should also then be mekadesh yodayim v'raglayim as well, not only before putting on his 8 vestments, but also after putting on his 8 vestments. So it should be a total of 2 kiddushin. And yet the Mishnah only records 1 kiddushin, kiddush yodayim v'raglayim, after donning the vestments. So it can't be that our Mishnah is altered by Rabbi Meir, says the Rabban to Rabbi Papa. Omar l'Rabba, Rabbi Papa answers his students, Bein l'Rabbanon, Bein l'Rabbi Meir, Chad apshita, the big day kodesh, v'chad alavisha. Both Rabbanon and Rabbi Meir hold that there's 1 kiddush yadayim v'raglayim on the pshita, on the taking off of the clothing, and also 1 in regards to the wearing of the clothing of the big day kodesh. And therefore, since over here he's only taking off his big day chol, so therefore there's only 1 kiddush yadayim v'raglayim, because there's no pshita of the big day kodesh. There's only a levicha big day kodesh. So therefore the Mishnah could, yes, be Rabbi Meir, because Rabbi Meir would agree in this case that you would only do 1 kiddush yadayim v'raglayim. What's their machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim? Explains Rabbi Papa, upashat v'rochatz v'lovash. The pasuk says that he took off his garments. It says that he was roichetz, referring to then he was toivil in the mikvah, and then it's v'lovash, and he wore his garments. Now the Gemara understands that the word v'rochas in between is then used for both the pshita as well as for the levisha. That there's 2 times that he's then going. Not, I said tovel in the mikvah. That's wrong. I meant to say that he's mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. Therefore, the rochatz that he's referring to as kiddush yadayim v'raglayim is going on 2 things. There's 1 rochatz on the pshita and 1 rochatz on the levisha. The Gemara explains. Rabbi Meir savar makish pshita levisha. He makes the hekesh of pshita levisha as follows: ma levisha loivesh ve'achar kach mekadesh af pshita poishe ve'achar mekadesh. Just as when it comes to wearing the clothing, you first are loivesh and then you're mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. So too, when you're poishet, the Chacham say afterwards, then you would be then mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. So that's how Rabbi Meir learns. That's how Rabbi Meir learns. V'Rabbanon, again, Rabbi Meir would say that the same way that you're loivesh and then you're mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim, so too you're poishet and then you're mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. Rabban and Savrei, they learn differently. Makish pshita levisha, with the following hekesh: ma levisha keshu lavush mekadesh. Just as when he is wearing the clothing, that's when he's mekadesh. So too, af pshita keshu lavush mekadesh. So too, when it comes to pshita, before he takes them off, while he's still wearing the clothing, he's mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. So it's a different order. So that's the machlokes, explains Rav Papa to the Chachamim. But in essence, they both agree that 1 is for the pshita and 1 is for the levisha, says Rav Papa. Amulei Rabban Rav Papa. Rabbanan say to their Rabbi Rav Papa, umimatzis amris hochi. Can you learn that indeed this is so? That Rabbi Meir agrees with the Chachamim that 1 kiddush yadayim raglayim is for the pshita and the other 1 is for the levisha? No, really, they're both for the levisha according to Rabbi Meir, because we have a brayso that proves that. V'hatanya persu sadin shel boots beino lebein ha'am. They are pares. They spread out a linen sheet between the Kohen Gadol and the people to provide him privacy when he then enters into the mikvah. Poshat v'yora v'tovol olav v'nistapik. He then takes off his clothes. He goes down into the mikvah, and he comes out and he dries himself. Heviu lo big day zov v'lovash. He then puts on his gold investments, and he's lovash, v'kidesh yodav v'raglayim, and then he's mekadesh yadayim v'raglayim. So we're talking about the first time which is what the Mishnah is talking about as well. And this Brisa states the opinion of the Tanna Kama so far. The Tanna Kama says that he's only Mekadeh Yadayim V'Raglayim after he dons the 8 vestments, the golden vestments. Rabbi Meir argues, and he says, Poshat v'kidesh Yadayim V'Raglayim Yodav V'Roglav V'Yora V'Tovel. Here, Rabbi Meir adds that he is going to Mekadeh Yadayim V'Raglayim after he's poishet his weekday clothes. Then he goes into the mikvah. Olav and istapog. He comes out of the mikvah. He dries himself up. Veheviu loy bigdei zov velovash v'kidesh yodav raglav. And then they bring him his 8 vestments. He dons those vestments, and then he's mekadosh yadayim v'raglayim a second time. So you see befeirush in this brisa that Rabbi Meir does not do like the chachamim. He argues and says you need to have to make 2 kiddushim over here, even in the first case that our Mishnah is talking about. So you see clearly argue the Chachamim that even though he's taking off his weekday vestments, but the Levisha of the Big Day Kodesh requires both a Kiddush Yadayim beforehand and a Kiddush Yadayim afterwards. And therefore, again, the Rabbanan are proving to Rav Papa that the Mishnah cannot be altered by Rabbi Meir. It must be only the Rabbanan. The Gemara says, Omar Lu, Rav Papa tells his Talmidim, Itanya Tanya. Indeed, if there is a brisa that says this, then indeed what you're saying is a proof. Have it not been for the brisa, I would have learned that the Rabbanan and Rabbi Meir really share the same opinion. They only argue about which order is the Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim, but they both agree that there's one for Pshita and one for the Levisha. But now that there's a brisa that says otherwise, then I agree with you, of course, that the brisa is telling us that Rabbi Meir's opinion is that there's 2 of them for the Levisha, one before and one of the after. The Gemara points out, Lebishlam Rabbi Meir, Haini Dishkachas Lo, Asar Kiddushin. It goes very well according to Rabbi Meir that there's going to be 10 Kiddushin, as the Mishnah, the brisa state, the Kohen Gadol has to do on Yom Kippurim. Why? Because the beginning, the first time, there's 2, as we just pointed out, on top of Lam Beis Amud Aleph. El Rabbanon Tisha Havu. But according to the Rabbanon, since they're missing the first one, then there's only going to be 9. How do they get to the 10 Kiddushin? Answers the Gemara, Amrei Loch Rabbanon. The Rabbanon will say to you, Kiddusha Basra, the last Kiddushin, is Kiposhe Bigdei Kodesh, Velovish Bigdei Chol, Ovid Le Hasam. At the very end, when the Kohen Gadol then takes off his Big Day Kodesh to put on his Big Day Chol, then he's Mekadesh Yadayim V'Raglayim before he's Poshet the Big Day Kodesh, and therefore that comes to the 10th Kiddushin, even according to the Chachamim.